Okay, so it is the second episode of Cuppa with the Calm Birth School. My name is Liz Stamford and I'm the manager for the Calm Birth School. And today we are going to be talking all about morning sickness, would you believe? So to help me discuss this rather icky topic, I've got two lovely panelists. So I have got the lovely Kate Rickson. So Kate is the founder of Mini Miracles. She is a Calm Birth School instructor. I'm losing my voice already. Calm Birth School instructor. She is a member of the Calm family and she's training to be a fertility coach as well. Kate is also mum to two girls, Imogen and Eva. I just had to check my notes first. We're really chuffed that you have come on to talk to us today, because I know you've had some experiences with morning sickness. So how are you today, Kate?
I am really awesome, thank you. Good. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yay. Oh, well, you know. Thank you very much. We've also got the lovely Rosie. So Rosie is joining us today. Hello, darling. And she is a clinical psychologist and a Calm Birth School instructor as well. So Rosie has got a little girl called Robin, mum to little girl Robin, and she's also 36 weeks pregnant. Oh, wow. Thank you for joining us, Rosie. How are you feeling today?
Yes, I'm really good, and I'm really pleased that we've managed to set this up because it seemed very complicated to me.
Yeah, let's not tell everyone about our slight technical issues earlier this morning. So let's get into the topic, really. I think, you know, morning sickness, even just saying the word morning sickness sort of conjures up a certain taste in my mouth and makes me feel, you know, a little bit icky. And I'm sure that people who are going to be watching this, either as a live recording or watching it a little bit later, if you are watching it, actually give us some hearts so we know that you're there. I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to how we feel when we think about morning sickness. And I know this because I think it's 70 to 80% of pregnant women suffer with some of the symptoms of morning sickness in some way, shape or form. And the fact that it can start at around 6 weeks and go on to 16 weeks or beyond that is, you know, it can be quite a big part of pregnancy for some women. So we know that some of the symptoms are sickness and nausea, but there are other symptoms. It does present in other ways, of course, as well. So I'm really interested to hear how you guys sort of navigated your morning sickness struggles. I know I've had my own issues. So let's start with Kate. How did you deal with morning sickness? Like, when did it start for you?
Oh gosh, I remember it so well. So it started when probably about sort of 6 weeks of pregnancy. My husband and I were over the moon excited. We went down to the New Forest for a long weekend. And I spent most of it throwing up around fields and then I remember one night saying to him, I need a Happy Meal. We have to go out and find a Happy Meal. Yeah. Probably he went out so kindly and got me one. I promptly threw it up everywhere. So, the term morning sickness used to drive me bonkers because I used to think to myself, where are these people that get up in the morning and have sickness and then it's over? Mine was all day, every day.
Yeah.
And it probably lasted badly for about 5.5-6 months.
Oh gosh.
I was signed off work with severe emesis, so it wasn't quite at the hyperemesis gravidarum sort of side of it, but yeah. I was very dehydrated. I had a lot of upset stomachs as well, so it was kind of both ends.
Oh no, that is so hard.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but do you know something? This is going to sound a bit bonkers, but it was weirdly comforting because in my mind, sickness equaled baby.
Yeah.
If my body was doing all of that, then it was concentrating on growing a a healthy baby. And that's kind of how I got through it.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be reassuring for some women. For others, obviously, it can be just they can't think like that because it just takes over their entire pregnancy. But it's definitely a good way to think about it if you find it reassuring. So did you end up on medication or anything, Kate? You said
I was offered it, I can't think of the name. I was offered it, but I did a lot of research into the tablets, and I thought actually I would rather ride it out. I wore seasickness bands as accessories.
Yeah.
Lots of different coloured ones. I just took a massive amount of sick bags with me anywhere I went.
Yeah.
It was quite embarrassing turning up at places and saying, "Hi, sick bag for you."
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't know. I just had an amazing doctor who always put me and the baby above anything else, and he signed me off work because I couldn't move. Moving made me sick, so I just sort of lay on the couch for about sort of three months or so, because
that is so hard.
At night time, only at night time I'd go outside and take a walk because that's the only time I could really do it.
Crikey. And did you have that in both your pregnancies?
No, so this was in my first. It was a lot worse. In my second, I think I'd almost I was expecting, I was very anxious about having all of that again, but thankfully it was a lot of just being sick and feeling better. Yeah. So I didn't have the constant sickness. I was able to keep working, and
so being sick gave you some relief.
It did for about 10 minutes or so. It did for about 10 minutes or so. But it was a very lonely. I have to say, it was a very lonely place because I didn't know where to turn for advice. I hadn't really heard about any of severe morning sickness. I hadn't heard about anything. So it wasn't until now I'm working in this arena that I've actually really got to look into it so I could support others with it, as well. So that's great.
And that's something I think that Rosie can really relate to, because one of the reasons I'm so pleased that both of you could join me to talk about it today is because you both seem to have had these quite horrendous experiences with morning sickness, but it seems to have been the thing that has sort of driven you towards supporting women. And so Rosie, tell us a little bit about, can you relate to what Kate was saying then?
Yeah, it was really interesting listening to you because it's so similar to my own experience. My first pregnancy was just absolutely horrendous. I think, from about 6 or 7 weeks all the way through until I delivered Robin, I was still being sick, feeling terrible, couldn't enjoy anything. So I didn't feel like I got any pleasure out of anything in life for the whole of the pregnancy because all I felt was nausea. Oh. And I didn't manage to be as positive as you, really. I think I did find it reassuring in the first few weeks. But once I'd got past the 13-week point, something mentally in my head kind of snapped. And I was like, it's not meant to be this bad anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I really struggled for the rest of the pregnancy, coping with the fact it hadn't gone away. And like you, I was barely, I kept my job, but I was barely there. And I felt like I was doing a bad job when I was there. And I tried the tablets. I think I had they started with antihistamines, and then they gave me some antiemetics. But I couldn't, they had really weird side effects for me. I got like really fuzzy headed and and it just felt wrong. So I stopped taking them quite quickly because it didn't feel right for me.
So was there anything that did help you, Rosie? Anything that worked for you when you were, really at your lowest point with morning sickness?
Well, so in that first pregnancy, not really, because I didn't really seek it, if I'm honest. I tried like C-bands and stuff, but it didn't really occur to me to like look at my psychological toolbox and all the things that I would recommend for other people. Honestly, I think I just got so depressed. I needed somebody to pull me out of it, and I didn't get that the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's what's been so different about my second pregnancy. So I think it might have been a bit easier anyway. Just, I don't know why, but for other factors, it seems to, a bit like yours, have been a bit more kind of be sick and feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone on. It was only in the first trimester this time, thank God. But I
That must
also
have been such a relief for you to
know.
have suddenly started feeling better, because the thought of going through it all over again must just be like, oh no.
I know, and particularly because my little girl was poorly during my first trimester as well. My husband was away, so I was in and out of hospital with her a lot, and I was a bit like, this has to end. But thankfully it did. But I think
Good.
for me this time, I found breathing techniques and meditation really, really useful.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I felt like I could almost cleanse my body using particular breathing. There's one that I really love called exchange breathing, which,
Yeah.
and if anyone wants to look it up, there's loads of stuff out there on that, and I do some stuff about it. And I love that, and it really felt like the extra oxygen and just taking the time to calm my body made a huge difference to my experience.
Great.
So I really wish I'd done that the first time.
But it's all hindsight, isn't it? Because you just, if you don't, you only know what you know, don't you? So you can't sort of beat yourself up about it, because it is what it is. I mean, you two ladies seem to have had such terrible morning sickness experiences. Mine, nothing like that. I definitely had morning sickness for all 3 of my pregnancies. But I would class it as manageable. I probably had a couple of days off work with my first, because I was feeling nauseous and being sick, but also feeling like really lethargic, but really low as well. But I was a very anxious person back then anyway, so that might have had something to do with it. My second pregnancy, I just felt sick. I wasn't vomiting. I just felt waves of nausea. My third pregnancy, I was nausea again and a lot more vomiting. But the worst thing I have to say about my third pregnancy, the most embarrassing thing, was that I could not stop gagging. So I would literally just be talking to people and be going, like it was constant. It was so embarrassing. It got to the point where I was like, I'm just not going to be able to open my mouth, or I'd just try and turn it into a yawn and be like, I'm sure people must be sort of thinking, what is wrong with her? So gagging was definitely an issue for me. I'm wondering what were there triggers for you two, or was it just like a constant nauseous state?
Yeah, I definitely had triggers.
I guess what were yours?
Mine was everything. So the smell of the fridge and the freezer, anytime anyone opened those, the smell of it, because my power of smell became like a superhuman. I was like a superhero with it. And the smell of pretty much anything would make me gag. One really random one was just the thought of KFC. Even just thinking about the building made I was having a conversation with someone once, and we were chatting about KFC, as you do, it's obviously a big topic of conversation.
Yeah, for everyone. Hang on a minute though, Kate. You've mentioned McDonald's Happy Meals today. KFC, there's a pattern. Fast food over here.
Yeah, but you have to find things that are okay going up as they go going down. So, Happy Meals, but KFC I can't stand. I've never liked it, and then it went to another level. I remember talking to somebody and having to actually run away mid-sentence because the thought of it just made me, I had to explain, obviously, it's not you, it's the baby.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Face, you're not making me feel sick. It's just, you've mentioned KFC, so yeah, I can relate to that.
And where I worked, actually, we were bit gross, but so there was where we worked, was a big roundabout, and right over the other side of the roundabout was a sewage works. And on days where the wind blew towards my work, the smell, I can't even bear the thought of it now. The smell would come into the office, but I was pregnant during a very hot summer.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have the window open. So I was in my office baking with this smell of sewage with an air conditioning unit going that they'd hired for me. And even now when I drive past it, that's it. No,
You
can't.
know,
Yeah,
no.
and everything really. Stress, getting up, waking up, going to sleep, the first thing of fresh air. My husband's that was honestly, I mean, I can't, you know, but that was, and I said, it's just the smell, it's a sense of smell. Everything got me.
Yeah, and they do say that that is one of the causes of morning sickness, is the heightened sense of smell during pregnancy. So it just makes sense. What about you, Rosie? What were your major triggers?
Well, the worst
Please
smell
don't say your husband's gas issues.
yeah, I mean, it's been a problem. Thankfully, because he was away for the second one, I didn't have to do but I do think the smell of coffee, or the thought of, you know, the Waitrose coffee machine.
Yeah, I love those now, but yeah.
Could not go in that shop. I couldn't go because the thought of the coffee would make me be sick.
Yeah.
So I'm always feeling on the edge of being sick anyway, but that would tip me over.
Oh, no.
But the other major thing for me, which was so unfortunate because I had a really long commute to work, was motion. So if I was in a car or a train or a bus, it was just like an open floodgate. I would just have a conveyor belt of sick bags like this. And I had an hour and a half to do on the tube each way.
Oh, Rosie. Oh, my goodness.
And I started off being so good. I was like, right, I'm going to get off the tube every time I'm sick. So, you know, for the other passengers, be kind, be nice, be respectful. By the time it got to like 7 months in and I was still doing it, I was like, no, this is just what I do.
This is who I am.
Like really, really low point of dignity.
Oh no, but I bet those passengers must have been like, oh, okay, we know what she does on the commute. We'll go in one of the other carriages, perhaps. Well, but you've got to do what you've got to do, haven't you? You've got to survive that period because it's intense.
It's tough though, but in the early days, you're not showing. People just assume you're hungover.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Why assume that? But everybody does. You get tutted at.
Yes,
and
I do.
Like, well, show with my first, and I was like, "Come on, bump, show yourself," so that people start to be nice.
Yeah.
Wear those badges, baby on board badges.
Yeah, God.
That is a good one, definitely. I remember talking about like triggers. One of my triggers was Subway. You know, like I can't even think about it now. It really makes me sick. That was in my first pregnancy, and I worked in an office, and there was this lovely guy. I'm Facebook friends with him, so he might actually see this if he feels like watching. He used to work nights, and then he would come in to the office about mid-morning, 10:30, 11, have brunch, which was his Subway sandwich, which he picked up on the way in, sit opposite me and just devour a Meatway sub. And as soon as he sat down and got it out, I was just up and running to the toilet because even now I can just remember that sense of overwhelming. I've got to get out of here, and I can't walk past a Subway now. Like even my kids will like go, "Oh, mummy, there's a Subway there. There's a Subway there," and I'll be like, "Oh, I can't see it. I can't look," and hold my breath as I walk past because it was definitely pretty intense.
And it still makes you feel sick now?
It doesn't make me feel sick, but I want to avoid it. I don't like, I'll literally, if I smell it, I'll be like, oh God, but it won't make me feel sick, but it will make me turn my nose up, definitely. So I've definitely got an aversion to that popular chain. I'm not sure if we should actually be discussing or putting down popular restaurant chains.
I think it's okay. You must have had any money from competing chains.
Yeah. I think we're all good on that front. So how did your family and your partners in particular deal with your sickness? Like, were they supportive, or did you find that they didn't understand, or how did that work?
I don't think they understood. They were as supportive as they could possibly be, with having been through similar. Because I was completely shocked. I think Kate mentioned, I mean, I'd never heard of somebody being as sick for as long as I was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think people in my family were really aware it could be like that either, especially my poor husband. The first time, I mean, he was really running around after me for a few weeks, but then he was a bit like, oh my God.
Yeah, how long is it going to go on for?
Can't keep this 9 months. So I think it was a real shock for us all. And I'm usually really resilient as well. I think, bigging myself up, but normally I cope with stuff quite well. And I didn't cope with it very well, which I'm not ashamed of at all. I think it's a really difficult thing, and you shouldn't feel under pressure to be a coper at a time like that when your body is.
No, definitely not.
But
there'll be women who will watch this back, Rosie, and will think, crikey, like a clinical psychologist was struggling with how she felt mentally during her sickness and her pregnancy, and that's really reassuring for people, So if someone like you struggles with the sort of mental side of it, then I think, it's great that you're being so open and honest about it. So thank you for that. Definitely.
No, that, because I feel, because it was such a shock the first time, we were quite well prepared for it the second time, like my family and my friends, and I knew that I'd need to ask for help from people. And so I had planned who I would ask to do what and stuff. And I think I really recommend that to people, because even you might be really lucky and not get it and you might feel fine, but when you're pregnant, just have a think about who can do stuff for you. And if there's nobody, if there's a gap, something that you might need but you don't necessarily have support in place for, then try to sort something out while you're still feeling okay, because it's so, once you're in the quagmire of despair, as I like to call it, it's really,
that's a good term.
but yeah, I just think that's so important that people know and they can prepare for it.
Great.
And I don't think it's really helpful that we all know that Kate Middleton had really severe sickness, but all the pictures of her, she still looked great, and
she had a team of stylists.
Exactly. We don't have that
reality. I looked like a hag the whole pregnancy.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't.
I can't believe that, Rosie.
Oh, I did, and I can completely own that, because I didn't have the energy to live and do makeup or any of that.
Yeah, you let yourself off the hook, basically. You were just like, I don't need to look a certain way. I'm just dealing with how I'm feeling right now and getting through, not even getting through the day, is it? It's getting through the hours and the minutes until maybe there's some relief at some point during the day, which for some people just doesn't come. So, Kate, what about your family and your husband? How did they help you? They understand?
Yeah, I mean, I like Rosie. I mean, I was permanently grey, and well, I'm not saying you were permanently grey, Rosie, but you said you looked a bit good. I did too. I walked a lot slower, and my movements, but my husband was just absolutely amazing, because he could see how scared I was, and oh gosh, welling up a bit here, because it
made you emotional.
It affects me. I'm a crier. It's all good.
No, go for it.
No, but it did. He could see how scared I was, and that it was affecting me a lot. But I'm quite open with most things, and my family are, but I was very much a don't touch me, I need to close the door, I need you to be away from me, I can't have you around me, but I need you to be hovering around the general area to make sure I'm okay. And he looked after me, at one point all I could eat were those, those travel sweets that you get in the little round tins and covered in powdered sugar.
I know the ones.
Very random. That was what I could keep, and I used to carry them, in my pocket, just so that I could have one every now and then. And he went out searching all the garages, because that's the only place there sold it. But he could see how worried I was, and because it was our first baby, he didn't have any experience of it either. So he worried as well, and he worried because I was losing weight, because I wasn't able to keep anything down. Whereas he sort of thought, well, actually, surely you should be putting weight on. So definitely in the first kind of trimester and a half, I lost quite a lot of weight, and then I started to really lovely, fill out of it once I was able to keep things down. But I was sick all through my whole pregnancy, and delivering Imogen gave me that final bit of relief. It just kind of stopped all of a sudden, But my family were awesome. I think, though, you do kind of get into a bubble of, this is how I'm feeling. And I used to feel that it was something I was doing. So I was quite private about it. And I was also a little bit embarrassed, what am I doing to make myself so sick? And I remember being on the phone to my mum in tears, before I had the 12-week scan, just saying, what if there's nothing, what if it's something I'm doing, and they'll be angry at me because I'm being so, it's.
Not like totally normal first time mum sort of irrational thoughts and feelings, which you just can't help.
But they were amazing. They hadn't been through it. Like one of my friends and one of my best friends actually, and I had a chat once. She just felt nausea all the way through hers. And we were having a chat, which one was going not worse, because obviously you don't, not the competition, but it was like, at least I had that relief for about 10 minutes or so before it started again. But she just felt constantly nauseous with never having any sort of relief from it. So it's amazing how it affects
different people, isn't it? It is. It's crazy. I mean, I've had relatives, I've had cousins who have had the sickness so bad that they've been like hospitalized for a large part of their pregnancies, and that's so hard, especially when you've already got kids as well, and you've kind of got to juggle all of that. It can be really tricky for people, definitely. And
how did you find it with quite a few? How did you find it, because you were quite poorly with your third one as well, weren't you? How did you find it already having two and then having to deal with that as well?
I mean, that I found that a bit tricky, but to be honest, my experience is nothing like you two. Like I could deal with it, and the way that I dealt with it was by constantly eating. But luckily for me, it was all like healthy foods that really helped. So bless my mom, she was so helpful. I would drop the kids off at her house before I went to work, because I still worked in an office at that point, and she would present me with a little box of like chopped up carrot sticks and chopped up cucumber and red peppers, and I would and some oat cakes, and I would just literally munch on that all day until I got to my lunch, and then I got to my dinner. And one of the things I remember about my husband and him supporting me through that is he was brilliant, and he does all the cooking in our house anyway, because I'm no cook. And I remember him cooking and putting this lovely meal down in front of me, and me looking at it and going, oh, that looks nice, and then inhaling and running to the toilet and vomiting immediately. So that must have been like incredibly off-putting for him. I just slaved away at cooking this meal for you, and now you're throwing up. And I would come back and eat it. That would be like, that would be the weird thing. I'd be like, just going to throw up, and then I'm just going to eat the whole thing. So it obviously presented in a very different way with me. And I remember my dad being really supportive as well, because he used to buy these little tins of ginger ale. And they would really, really help me, like make me very gassy. But they would really, really help. And I think it is about, like you both already said, ladies, getting help and support from people, and also just trying things and seeing if it works. Like Rosie now found that the meditation and the breathing works really well. And Kate, you found that support from your family, sort of helped you with the kind of mental offload of things. And, for me, even though my sickness wasn't as bad as everybody, as you two, it was definitely eating little and often, and, just getting some help and support. And actually, Kate, you said fresh air in the evening helped you as well. Yeah. So that was definitely good. So yeah, trying things and seeing if that's gonna help at all is probably a good option.
I have got one actually.
Sorry, go on, Rosie.
was not getting too tired.
Yeah.
Because I had the most amazing supervisor, the place I was working at the time with Robin,
Yeah.
and she said to me, to shorten my days, to come in later and leave earlier,
Yeah.
so that I could get more sleep. And that was the best advice ever, because when I was sleep deprived, it was horrendous, so
Right.
much worse.
I've
But
heard that. Yeah, definitely.
sleep
Yeah.
really helped. And I think second time around, because I had Robin, and she's 16 months now, so how old was she when I got pregnant? I don't know, not very old. 9-10 months.
Wow. Yeah.
Still napping. So when I was at home with her and I could nap at the same time as Robin, I felt much better for that. And that's something that's really hard to do in your first pregnancy, perhaps, if you're still working full-time hours. But if you can get a nap in,
Yeah.
I found a really useful strategy. And
Yeah.
actually, I think employers generally are wising up a bit to that sort of thing. So it's worth having that conversation if you can. I mean, I was so blessed. My team couldn't have been better at supporting me at work.
Oh, that's so good.
I had that too, actually, Rosie. I had the most wonderful boss that, yeah, did the same. If you need to come in later, if you need to leave earlier, I used to be able to lock my office and just have a little nap in my chair if I needed to. He bought me an air conditioning unit, he went over and beyond to make sure that I was okay. And I think you're absolutely right. It really does make the difference. And I got pregnant again when my little one was 9 months old.
Wow.
So yeah, I agree with you. The napping thing definitely works. Definitely works.
Great. So I think we've can you believe we've been chatting for half an hour? I know. So I hope that anybody who watches this, who is suffering from morning sickness, can feel maybe not so alone, that they know that there are people who have suffered in similar ways to them. And I just want to give you ladies a really, really, really big thank you for joining me today. It's been so lovely to chat to you. Yeah, and great. I think, we'll leave it there. So thank you for your time and your insights and your experience. And we'll see you again soon, I hope. Bye. Bye.